That has become sort of a tradition at LSU to open the season at a neutral site against a national opponent and get exposure on a national basis. And it's worked out pretty well for LSU. They fared well in these games. And of course, it's at historic Lambeau Field to get things started this year against Wisconsin. Looking forward to it. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv. The LSU Tigers had a topsy-turvy season. They were top 10. Some people had them top 2 at one point of the season. Then they collapsed. Then they came back, and it turned out to be a pretty good season overall. 9-3, including a winning record in the SEC, and they blitzed Texas Tech in the Texas Bowl. And again, they reached number 2 overall, but then lost 3 in a row. Leonard Fournette, brilliant season, led the nation in rushing, set the school record in rushing yards. Gerald Hawkins, well, he leaves early for the draft, and LSU still keeping a lot of players, which is what they hadn't done the previous years, which is why they're thought of very highly entering the 2016 season. So, Brian, it was a weird year. They were reached as high as number 2, went to Alabama, lost, and then they really hit the skids. And then Les Miles apparently was fired, but then he wasn't fired, and then they came back and won a bowl game. Strange year, wasn't it?
Just another typical year up at LSU, I think, Kenny. But you're right. You point to the Alabama game as changing everything, okay? It changed their national championship aspirations. It changed Leonard Fournette's ability to continue to compete for the Heisman Trophy. With that one game set the wheels going in the wrong direction.
Ricky, I think that the concern about LSU is not so much that they lost to Alabama, although I know LSU fans are focused on that. It's the fact that they lost to Arkansas again, and they lost to Ole Miss. And these are not programs that LSU fans and LSU supporters have been used to taking a seat behind, and they're behind them right now in the SEC West based upon their performance against them most recently.
Yeah, they lost against teams that had good offense, and that's been the key. I mean, LSU haven't been able to really stop the great teams. You've seen the same thing with Alabama. I mean, these teams get a chance to score a whole lot of points on LSU, and that's the key. When you get a team that can score a lot of points, Alabama don't play great defense. LSU don't play great defense some days.
Well, the Tiger offense was centered around number 7. Leonard Fournette had a memorable season, one for the ages. The young man backed up the hype. He was just fantastic. Great burst, great power, outstanding speed, can catch the ball out of the backfield, plays with a high motor, Brian. There isn't anything else you could want out of this young man.
Yeah, the thing, one of the things I like most about Leonard is he is a competitor, boy. He wants to win, and you can see it in every carry. This guy is unbelievable. But he's a well-suited player. He can block. He's got great hands as a receiver out of the field. Look at the speed. I mean, this is speed. Obviously, it's one of those things you can't teach. He's everything that should excel at the next level.
Yeah, short corner, wide side pitches. It doesn't make any difference, Rick.
Well, I mean, this guy just trying to help him get out of that college where he can get to the NFL. I mean, a bike like that, you don't want him to get hurt, so he's ready to get in the NFL.
And that's the key, okay? Above all things else here, you want him to be able to stay healthy and have a good junior year, okay? And hopefully it'll help LSU achieve its goals. And their lofty expectations always are up in Baton Rouge.
Well, when you have him coming back to start with, you've got a big jump on everything else, but they got a lot of other players coming back as well, which is why at least one service has them preseason number 1 going into next year, despite the fact that their quarterback position is still not what you would like it to be, at least on paper. While the LSU schedule coming up in 2016 is a challenging one. It opens at Lambeau Field against Wisconsin. Then a little bit of a breather with Jacksonville State. Then they start SEC play. Mississippi State comes calling. Travel to Auburn. Damian Craig goes back to Auburn, right? Then the SEC schedule: Missouri, Florida, Southern Miss, breaking up the SEC games. Ole Miss, Bama, Arkansas, South Alabama, and then closing against the Aggies on Thanksgiving Day. So, Brian, again, a schedule I think that sets up pretty well for LSU. There are some hole punch games, if you will. You look at Auburn on the road, got to win that one. But then you get Ole Miss and Alabama
at home
coming to you this year.
Yeah, and you play at Florida. But you're right, Kenny. I like the way that schedule breaks up for this team. So we'll see. Last year's schedule looked a little bit more formidable. I like this schedule.
I'll tell you, the team, they get 9-2, Brian. That'll be a
Yeah.
great year for them.
Yeah,
I mean, I look for them to, you know, they can go 9-2, 8-3. That's another good year.
And you know what we forget, and in the grand scheme of things, they miss out on the McNeese State game that gets from you know, it was canceled standpoint. So all that, there's another win in Les Miles' folder. Leonard Fournette is pushing at a greater number.
2,000.
Yeah, you know, you
Over
never
two- over
know.
2,000.
So these are things you just can't account for, and it happened.
Well, anything less than 10 wins in a 12-game season, I think would be disappointing for LSU at this stage based upon expectations, where people have them ranked and what they've got coming back. And I know that's a strong statement, but that's who they are. And here's the deal, Brian, it's real simple. Up until and through the 2012 season, they were an elite program. They were a top 5 program, threat to win the national championship every year. Since then, that's not been the case.
Right.
They need to get back to that level.
And Ken, I think you pointed it out earlier in this discussion, is that the losses at Ole Miss and Arkansas, though they have hounded this club for the last 3 years, I believe. It's one thing to lose to Alabama, okay? It's another thing to lose consistently to the 2 teams I just mentioned. And that's what has Tiger Nation and administrators all up in arms, is you can't afford to do that. And their inability to find a quarterback who can play consistently and compete at a national level has been their albatross.
Well, one thing you can give them credit for, they've been having great recruiting classes. You know what I mean? And they've always been up in the top, you know, 3, 4, 5 class. So they got good athletes. They got great football players. They just haven't put it together on the field with a good quarterback.
I like what they've done too, as Ken said it again, is that they've kept kids at home this year. They haven't lost this mass exodus to the NFL as juniors. So look, they've kept a lot of guys that can help, particularly on defense, and so that's what's going to have to happen. And they've got another good recruiting class, as Ricky said.
Yeah, football, because of the very nature of the game and the physical maturity, when you have guys coming back in football, I think it's more important than it is in baseball or basketball when you have returning players, right?
Yeah, because, you know what I mean, they teach you the ropes. I mean, you got a guy with junior, he can teach the freshmen what to look for and the things ahead, you know, that he's going to face. And that's what you look for. But if you don't have that, you know what I mean, who can help you with it?
Well, when we return in just a moment, we'll talk about the Tulane Green Wave and recap their 2015 season and look ahead as Sports NOLA TV continues.